Hello and welcome to the deep dive. We are back and we're going to be talking about Trent Alexander-Arnold and why so many people analyse Trent Alexander-Arnold wrong within sports media and stuff like that. And it really grates my gears, to be honest with you, Josh, because, and this has showed a complete lack of humility, so I will apologise in advance, but I said something on the podcast yesterday that stuck with me. That's okay. It sounds terrible, that, doesn't it? But it kind of...
You said something that stuck with yourself.
Yeah, I talk a lot of shit and I just drop a lot of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one, I think I said it so simply. I wish I'd have actually watched it and remembered it properly, so that's why I'm an idiot. But like, if he was doing something wrong, Jurgen Klopp wouldn't play him. And we wouldn't see the same thing over and over and over for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
He plays here because Jurgen Klopp wants him to play here. For the most part in the 4-3-3 formation of old, and he does this because Jurgen Klopp wants him to do this. If he was doing it wrong, he wouldn't be doing it. It's that simple.
Yeah, I agree.
So everyone's always going, oh, he's defensively, he's a shambles and all this type of stuff, and it's just wrong. He's doing what the manager's asking him to do.
Yeah.
And if he wasn't doing what the manager was asking him to do, he wouldn't be in the team. And it's as simple as that. And I think that's where people are like, they're always talking about, you know, after the weekend, Doku this, Doku that, Doku this. Who got the goal? Trent Alexander-Arnold got the goal. How many goals and assists did he get? None.
Yeah. Feel better now?
I do feel a bit better, to be honest with you, but it's just like, it really frustrates me. And like, I've seen things on YouTube over the course of the last few days and stuff like that, where people that I really rate really highly have even got the wrong end of the stick on things sometimes. And you know, everyone's a critic, of course, like, but I'm just going to bring up my laptop screen here, and I think one of the things that I saw a lot out of the weekend was that Trent Alexander-Arnold couldn't get into the middle because of Manchester City, and he wasn't good enough to be able to play through the middle, and I completely disagree with that. And I think I can show this here, is that these are the last 4 games that Trent has played at right back and his heat maps, right? City here, right hand side, sound. We got this one against Brentford, he sticks on the right hand side, and I think against Luton he comes in central a bit more, and against Nottingham Forest he comes in central a bit more as well. But again, largely he's doing his work down the right hand side. He is more central, higher up the field against Luton, trying to get something back in the game and stuff like that. I think people aren't giving him credit, and this Liverpool side in general, for adapting to what the opposition does.
Yeah.
And it's not always about force it, lads. Force it because we want to play a box midfield. It's always been this way with Liverpool, I think. Find space on the field. And if Trent can find space over here, then that's absolutely fine and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I think it takes me back to a recent thing Carragher said when he was touching on Trent, actually. He was speaking about, like, you know, there's this narrative about Trent being right back, is he a centre mid, is he a 6, you know, whatever he is or whatever. I think a couple of months ago, Carragher just said, whatever it is that you do, wherever you're playing, whatever, you want him to be assuming the possession roughly here. Just around that area, whether he's an 8, whether he's a right-sided 6 as part of a 2, whether he's a right back. You just want him in kind of the Trent zone. And it's similar with De Bruyne, really. And I think Liverpool, for the most part, just depending on the opposition and where the space is and things like that, strike that balance and achieve that. But sometimes he will pick up the ball in more central areas. Sometimes it'll be on the right a bit more. Early in the season, said to earlier, didn't I, that he played against Villa and was basically a centre half at times with the ball, with Massive coming out wide. So it is a match-to-match thing, and this coincides as well with things Linda has said in terms of just using Trent almost as...
You're queen on the chessboard.
Yeah, just...
You can go whichever direction, however far you want.
Just the ultimate tactical tool, just kind of the entire right side of the pitch, wherever Trent is going to be the most beneficial for you, mainly in possession. Play him there, and to an extent, what happens when we lose the ball is almost a bit of an afterthought. Whether that's the right thing is open for debate, really, I suppose, especially in the bigger games and that. And I think that's why sometimes he's painted as this defensive liability. But you got to bear in mind what he's doing for the team. Nobody else on the side is doing. Robertson, for example, completely different kind of fullback to what Trent's doing. You've got to almost create his own world, bit of a unicorn in that sense. and for that reason, it's no surprise really that sometimes he's maybe a little bit caught up the field or can look a little bit bad or whatever.
This is the point, I suppose, isn't it? Is that, like against Manchester City at the weekend, we've obviously just done our review show on redmenplus.com. You're more than welcome to go over there, give that a shot. If you want a full year subscription, use the code REDS. It'll run up until midnight on Tuesday the 28th of November. You get 50% off. We do a deep dive on YouTube every week, and we do a deep dive over there, as well as all the documentaries and stuff. Use the code REDS, Captain yearly subscription applies too. Doku's here. We've talked about this, and they're trying to overload with Bernardo Silva and Doku here. Now, one of the things that I thought was really great from Trent's game, which no one's talking about, is his positioning was good. It wasn't like Doku was here and Trent was here. That's where we've had problems in the past. When the space is there and Doku's in it and Trent's nowhere to be seen. He was in one-on-one more often than not with Bernardo Silva, two-on-one situations. And then it's a system thing. It's not a Trent Alexander-Arnold thing. We know this guy's going to go past him at times. He's going to go and hit there, but where are you defending? Can you get Matip in between him and Haaland? Can you make sure that Doku doesn't get goals and doesn't get assists? If he cuts inside, is McAllister there to help you out? And that's the maturity of his performance and why his performance was good at the weekend in a defensive sense, because you're going to lose one-on-ones versus Doku, but you're not out of position, and he never was out of position at the weekend, and that's important for me.
Yeah, well, I think his defensive approach felt a little bit Van Dijk in the sense that rather than immediately committing and maybe going straight through him or something like that, which is what a lot of supporters maybe wanted, maybe what Milner would have done or something, Trent kind of just didn't sell himself, didn't really commit, and just let Doku...
Doku it.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. And then the rest of the defence could set themselves based on whatever he did next, and a lot of the time it was that, and then you can set yourself for the byline then. But I think if Trent starts engaging, getting beat outright, and then Doku can go like that and drive him, that's a problem. And if Trent gets beat outright and commits a foul, City are really good at set pieces. City are good at set pieces, mate. You can give away a penalty. Doku's really tricky in that sense. So it's a really difficult dynamic to manage. But I think Trent, by just predominantly... I think he was more of an obstacle for him, really. He was just like an obstacle who didn't really...
Don't make it easy.
Yeah, don't make it easy, but don't sell yourself either or anything like that. And I think he generally performed as well as you possibly could against that kind of opponent with that kind of system on the pitch, to the extent where Gary Neville, Man United legend, gives him man of the match, despite the fact he got dribbled past 11 times. That's saying something, really.
It is, it absolutely is, and I'm just going to show you some stuff from a report from Y-Scout that we've got, and you can see his actions on the field here, and on the left-hand side of your screen you can see, there's a couple of things in the middle there, but for the most part, City either take it away or he's decided. City have taken it away, there's no point in me going inside, and I think you see a little bit more in the second half, where he gets a little bit more central than out wide when you compare the two. But generally speaking, it's about finding space on the football field, isn't it? And it's always been about finding space. It's not about formation and rigidly sticking to it. You've got to go where the opposition are allowing you to go, or where the space is on the field, so that you can then impact the game, I suppose.
Yeah, and you've got to think as well, later in the game, when he scores his goal, he's basically in the spot of like an 8, like a right side of 8, because he picks up the ball here, obviously, and finishes. As I said, we saw him against Aston Villa as a bit more of a centre-half. First half against Manchester City, he plays as a right-back. Most of the season, he's played as an inverted full-back, as like a part of the midfield too with McAllister. So he's got like... He can play anywhere, really, when you think about it, on the entire right side of the pitch and be really, really dangerous on the ball. I think the bottom line is just getting him on the ball where he's going to be the most threatening, and ideally where he's going to be the least harmful on the defensive side in terms of getting caught out of position and stuff.
One thing I wanted to talk about, I know this is a show about Trent Alexander-Arnold, but I want your opinion on this stuff as well, mate. Now, for me, when we've come up against City in the past, and we've had good performances against them, it's been Trent Alexander-Arnold, and historically it's been Jordan Henderson being his buddy, making sure that when the winger cuts inside, Jordan Henderson's there. How did you feel McAllister backed up his mate, Trent, in this one?
I think it was one of McAllister's better games in terms of applying himself, especially on the defensive side. I thought he put a foot in. I thought he got about the pitch reasonably well. I don't think he looked overly exposed at any point, and he wasn't really any stage where I thought to myself like, he's a problem. He needs more support. He needs more bodies around him or whatever. But I also think in terms of what you've just said, because he's a lone six, it's not overly on him to be doing that so much. Obviously, Soboslai's got to fill in there as well. Matip's got to help him out. So in that sense, he's almost going beyond what he had to do really. Because if you're supporting as a lone six like that, coming over here, helping with the overload and things like that, you do leave a massive gap here for him to kind of fill in. So ideally, you want Soboslai doing it, but I think he did generally well. What about you?
Yeah, no, I think he did. I thought he was brilliant, and I think you're right to mention, let's say, Dom Soboslai over here as well. I think they all did a job for the team, and I think defensively Liverpool were very resolute. Obviously, the mistake during the game, we've touched on it in the show on redmenplus.com and stuff like that. But I think the big thing for me is it's the adaptability and the trust from the management team and the coaches that we've got an idea of how we want to play. And I think you maybe saw in the first 10 minutes that Liverpool might have wanted Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle, in the normal box formation. But I think what you saw quite quickly was that City were going box for box with us, and it made it difficult. So Trent had a decision to make, and it's on the players, isn't it? A lot of the time, especially during the game, they've got to make the right decisions. And I think the biggest thing that I can give to the players is, we're still playing a relatively new midfield. We're still playing a relatively new formation. And yet they adapted really well against Manchester City, didn't they, to find their own niche in the game.
Yeah, and I think Trent especially is given that licence. I think he's an academy product. He's worked with Linders in particular for a long period of his career now. And I think he is almost given that licence to just kind of influence the game how best he can. I think he's actually said that himself. He said something along the lines of like, whenever I'm on the ball, my overall objective is to impact the game. And I don't think that's the case for every player. And sometimes maybe you could argue potentially bits last season, it went a bit spilling over, a little bit overload where he's picking up the ball like here, and we're getting Kanate's breaking his leg.
Yeah.
So I think it can go a little bit too far sometimes, but I think since the inverted fullback stuff's been introduced, I think he's tampered it a little bit, and kind of reined it in a little bit to the extent where he's influencing the game a healthy amount, but without the team suffering too much. Like a lot of people have pointed out so far this season that he hasn't. I think he's registered assists, but he hasn't registered many. I think it's been a while since he posted an assist. I might be wrong in saying that. But the team's second in the league, or was second in the league before this game. The team's doing really well. So if Trent is a positive contributor, like I don't think off the top of my head this season he's looked as much of a defensive liability. I can't think of too many situations compared to previous seasons where you're like, what's Trent doing here? Where is he? That sort of thing. Is that just me or?
No, I think you're right there. I think what it is it shows a growth in his game.
Yeah.
Like, yes, he's not getting the numbers, but he's actually, weirdly, he's playing deeper for a large part of the games during, when he is sort of inverting and getting into that box. He's not getting into this area of the field here where you'd be whipping balls in and, seeing it. Liverpool are attacking in a completely different way, and I think that's why his expected assists have gone down. I think his his shot creating actions are still quite good, actually. I just don't think as many of them are getting finished, if I remember correctly.
Well, he's on one assist in the Premier League for the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. His shot creating actions are actually up from last season, slightly down in comparison to the season before. So he's kind of middle of the road for that a little bit. And his expected assists, I'm pretty certain, is down. So he's creating less for the side, but I think he's almost offering elements of control for the team now, as opposed to creation. Because if you look at the forwards we've got, mate, little bit of less of an emphasis really for them to create, because we've got so many players.
And we're getting Salah getting assists and Jota getting assists, etc, etc. So yeah, I think for me, we're people are far too harsh on Trent Alexander-Arnold. Ultimately, what it comes down to is system. It comes down to how your team's performing. Liverpool are performing better than last season. The system is working. We've gone to the toughest place that you can go to in England, and we've got a point in a game that we lost 4-1 last season. Trent scores Liverpool's goal, and the lad who comes up against him doesn't. And yet, for some reason, Trent still comes in for loads of criticism from people, and I don't understand it. So, yeah. Is he the best right back that the Premier League's ever seen? Is my final question for you.
It's a big question, that. There's different types of right back, isn't he? I think he's on the ball without question. I don't think there's even a debate in terms of his possession value and things like that. On the defensive side, no, I don't think he's even close. So,
out of interest, who's the first name that springs to your mind in a defensive sense?
Kyle Walker.
Kyle Walker.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm Azpilicueta /
That's a good shout. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Branislav Ivanovic was always awesome. And those two, like in a defensive sense.
I also think, I think in terms of Reece James, because he's always compared, isn't he? Reece James has a really healthy balance between the pair of them, Trent and Walker. But he's never on the pitch, and that's not his fault. But you just cannot be.
I mean, it will be next week.
Yeah, I know. You just can't be considered though in that debate if you're never involved. You know what I mean? You're not doing it every single week. Trent has won everything in the sport. He's the most dangerous right back, the best passer of a right back I've ever seen. So
and he's ass.
Yeah, I think. Where do you stand on that then in terms of the best the Premier League's seen? Because it depends, really, doesn't it? On the ball, definitely.
I mean, listen, defensively, Rob Jones has got to be up there, but he didn't do it for long enough, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of injuries. I think Gary Neville, for his longevity, has to be in the conversation. I think completely limited by comparison to somebody like a Trent Alexander-Arnold. As far as the other right backs go, Kyle Walker, for his longevity, has to be in the debate. Kieran Trippier has got to be in the debate now as well, although he's a lot older than you probably think. I think he's 31. Kieran Trippier, you know.
Yeah.
I think he's really, really good, and I think, you know, mad that he went over to Spain and won a league title.
I think he's a late bloomer since then. In terms of previously, he was a bit Trent in terms of offering a lot of possession value, but defensively, you carrying him a tiny bit. Since he's come back from Simeone's maybe 2 years with him, he's a lot more of a dog defensively. Trent doesn't have that element to him unless he's fired up. Like he had it, for example, after the Granit Xhaka moment at the Emirates, at Anfield. If he was like that all the time, and he played the way he plays with the ball, I don't think there'd be much of a question. But
I think Trent's in the top 5 in the world right now. I think he's in the top 3 in the world right now, regardless, even with the talk about his defensive stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that attacking wise, I think I'm right in saying, who's the lad at PSG? Is it Hakimi?
Hakimi, yeah.
He's like posting unbelievable numbers at the moment in terms of attacking. Cancelo's doing well at Barcelona again, I think, isn't he?
Yeah. I actually don't think Cancelo's any better though than Trent defensively.
No.
They're both along the same lines, really. I think Trent is arguably better than him defensively.
I think you're right there. And then I think that's probably it for the right backs, to be honest with you. I think they're the ones that I'd be looking at thinking they're probably my top 3.
Are we talking now? Or?
Now.
Yeah. A lot of the right backs now that you think of are full backs. Centre half playing. Like you've got like
Ben White's doing a good job.
Ben White, yeah. I think Timber was having a go, weren't he, before his injury.
Like, why don't people go, oh, fucking hell, Ben White's shit. He can't spread the ball around like Trent Alexander-Arnold in the middle of the park.
I think when Trent initially came on the scene, everyone focuses on what he's doing, and it's amazing. But everyone, you naturally get to a point where you're a bit like, well, what isn't he doing then? And that becomes the overwhelming talking point then. When the value he's offering with the ball, I think is it's so good, it's so valuable that you almost accept what he's not doing. Like you could level that at Messi. Messi's obviously a forward, but Messi just didn't defend whatsoever, and the same with Cristiano as well. But they offer so much threat at this end. You're like, okay, we'll carry it then. Trent is obviously isn't that level,
but he's also not being carried in the same way.
No, he's not. He's being carried a bit more than maybe a Robertson on the opposite side, but he's offering more than Robertson. More than any fullback, in my opinion, going forward. Can't think
So
of
there you
anyone
go.
else.
Stop being harsh on Trent. He's ours and we love him. Thank you very much for joining me for this one. As I mentioned, we've got the Man City review over on redmenplus.com that you can fill your boots with. That's out now. Thank you very much. Like the video, please, and leave us your thoughts in the comments below.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Red Men content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.